If you're anything like me, you're excited to see the snow finally go. But with each new season, horse owners and riders experience new pros and cons that go along with our sport of riding. As we head into the month of April and more rain comes our way, it is important for horse owners to be aware of some of the common issues that we can come across during the spring season. This is why I've asked my friend and a new farrier to the Kemptville area, KC Trodden, to discuss with us one of the most common issues seen during the spring months as we start to open up our green, fresh pastures. Stay tuned after we hear from Casey as we look at the importance of hooves from a rider's perspective and gain an understanding together of the horse's natural gaits.
Today I'm going to talk to you about laminitis and fander. A lot of you have probably heard of these terms before but aren't 100% sure what they mean or the difference between the two. I'm going to give you a quick rundown so you have the basic knowledge and understanding of what is going on if your horse or pony is experiencing laminitis or fander. A lot of people use these two terms interchangeably and think that they mean the same thing, which is false. Although they are very closely related, there is a difference between the two. To start, you'll have to know the basic anatomy of the inside of the hoof. What you are looking at here is the inside of your horse's hoof. In this diagram, you will see 4 bones. Right now, we are only going to focus on the bone at the bottom labeled L. This is the biggest bone in your horse's hoof and is most commonly known as P1, the coffin bone, or the pedal bone. This is the bone that is affected if your horse founders. There is a lot of different structures in the horse's hoof, as you can see. The next part of the hoof you will need to know is the lamina. The lamina is the fibrous tissue in the hoof that attaches the pedal bone to the hoof wall. Itis means inflammation, so laminitis is exactly what it says, inflammation of the lamina. If the inflammation is very bad, it can lead to stretching or tearing of the lamina, which makes it very weak and can cause the pedal bone to rotate in the foot, which is what we call founder. On the left we have a normal hoof. On the right is what happens when a horse founders. As you can see, the area between the pedal bone and the hoof wall is greater because the lamina has torn, causing the tip of the bone to rotate as the torn lamina is failing to hold the bone in place. So now that you have a general idea of what laminitis and founder is and the difference between the two, I will give you a brief explanation of the causes so we can try our best to avoid this happening to the horses we love. There is no one for sure cause of laminitis, and there are many factors that can contribute to laminitis. Here are the most common known factors that can cause laminitis: insulin resistance, PPID, more commonly known as Cushing's disease, obesity, steroids, and stress. I know that it can seem a little overwhelming as some of those factors are out of our control. The main one you as a rider can try to be aware of is obesity. Laminitis cases not always but can spike in the spring with the warmer weather and fresh grass. The warmer weather means the horses aren't burning as much energy to stay warm and therefore store more fat. Also, the fresh green grass has sugars in it that can add to weight gain. Also, large amounts of certain grains and treats can contribute to weight gain and obesity as well. Laminitis and founder is more common in ponies as they tend to store fat easier than horses. Here are some signs you can be aware of that a horse may display to let you know they are experiencing laminitis. The most common one is overall lameness and just generally looking sore and uncomfortable on their feet. In more severe cases of laminitis, or if the horse has foundered, they will have this stance, which is them leaning back on their heels trying to take the weight off of their toes as their feet are very sore. In extreme cases, the horse may also lay down and refuse to get up. Unfortunately, there is no cure for laminitis, and once a horse has had it once, it is more prone to get it again in the future. Once the lamina has torn, it does not reattach. Although since horses' feet are constantly growing, the lamina does grow back in, fully attached as it was before the laminitis happened. Although there is no cure for laminitis, it can be managed. If the cause is from insulin resistance or Cushing's, there is medication that our vets can prescribe. If weight gain or obesity is the cause, a strict diet needs to be enforced. Although while a horse is going through laminitis, we may feel very helpless, there's a few things we can do to try to make them more comfortable. Keep them in a stall with deep bedding. Having them in a stall reduces the amount they can walk around, and the deep bedding provides a cushion for the bottom of their feet. Pain medication can also be given to try and give them some relief. Laminitis and founder can be very serious, and the best thing we can do is try to prevent it from happening in the first place. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something about laminitis and founder. Have a good day and stay safe.
Thanks to Casey, viewers now have an understanding or a helpful reminder of the causes, symptoms, and management for laminitis and founder. Other issues commonly seen during wet months are thrush and abscesses, which I encourage owners to educate themselves on so that we're ready to help our equine friends. Before we wrap up, we are going to shift our perspective and continue talking about hooves, but now from a rider's perspective. As a rider, understanding what each of your horse's hooves is doing during the primary natural gaits can aid in taking your riding to a new level and help you better influence the movement of your horse. Certain breeds have additional gaits, but I am going to focus on the walk, trot, and canter today. The walk is a 4-beat movement, meaning that there are 4 footfalls in the sequence. Each leg moves independently, beginning with one hind leg, followed by the same front leg, then the opposite hind leg, and lastly the opposite front leg. During the walk, especially during the warm-up, riders should learn to feel and process each separate footfall to ensure that their horse is moving rhythmically. It is also important to note any changes in the rhythm or feel of the walk sequence as the direction of travel is changed or as a rider alters their position. In the trot, horses' legs move in diagonal pairs, which creates a 2-beat rhythm. For example, the right hind and left front leg move at the same time, followed by the left hind and the right front. As riders post-trot, they create a 2-beat movement for themselves that matches the 2-beat rhythm of the horse's trot. As riders work in the trot, they should begin to feel how adjusting the tempo of their own posting can influence the tempo and feel of their horse's trot. If you have eyes on the ground or can develop a feel for how the horse is using their hind end, the term tracking up comes into play here. When the horse is reaching underneath themselves and the hind hoof falls where the front hoof fell during the movement of the prior diagonal pair, then the horse is said to be tracking up. Lastly, the canter is performed in a 3-beat sequence. Understanding the canter sequence is helpful for riders to understand leads and to improve the quality of their transitions. When the horse is cantering on the right lead, it implies that they will be taking off by first moving with the left hind leg, followed by the right hind and left front, and ending the sequence with the right front. Because the right front takes the final step to catch up after the movement of the diagonal pair, it ends the rocking horse motion of the canter sequence and is what gives the rider the physical indication of the right shoulder moving out the furthest underneath them, and therefore confirming for the rider that their horse is cantering on the right lead. If the horse is cantering on the left lead, the 3-beat sequence is as follows: right hind, then left hind with right front, ending with the left front. As riders begin to feel the movement of their horse, they can practice asking for canter transitions in a timely fashion. For example, if a rider wants to ask their horse to canter on the left lead, they can practice feeling for the step in which the right hind will soon be touching the ground and ask in that moment, as we previously discussed that the left canter lead implies the right hind leads the first footfall in that sequence. During all 3 of the horse's gaits, riders should take note of changes that they feel in each direction to determine lameness or areas that need improving. Having eyes on the ground, such as an experienced rider or a coach, or watching videos of yourself while riding, is an excellent tool to confirm what you are feeling well on your horse's back and to also see the sequence of the horse's gaits. One of my favorite things about riding is that there is always something to learn. While watching one of BZ Madden's online videos this week, her husband quoted that just because we understand the basics doesn't mean we can do them. So whether this was the first time or the 100th time that you've heard the topics in this video discussed, I hope that they will help you on your journey to becoming a better rider or horse owner. See you next week.